Hello guys, welcome back. Chitna here from Me with a Pencil, and today I'm going to share the most important part of the calligraphy. Yes, that is the basic strokes or the drills. So the basic strokes are the strokes which help us to form letters and words when we start writing in calligraphy. So these are really important, and so this is the basic calligraphy worksheet, basic strokes worksheet, and you can download this from the link given in the caption for your practice. And you can see that there are 8 basic strokes in this. So that is the downstroke, upstroke, oval, overturn, undertone, curve, compound curve, and descending and ascending loop. So these are the 8 basic strokes that we do before we start learning calligraphy, and they are really important. So before starting on your calligraphy, make sure that you get all your basic strokes correct. So let's start. So here I am using a grid paper to do my all the basic strokes. You can also use the file that I have shared with you guys to practice. You can keep a tracing sheet over the top of the page and you can practice and trace the strokes. That will help you to get better with it. And you can also use any grid paper that you have, a line notebook or anything, and a brush pen. So I'm using a Tombow dual brush pen. You can use any large brush pens that you have. So we're going to start first with the first basic stroke, that is the downstroke. So that's downstroke. I'm going to show how to do it. So mark your lines, like I'll be using like 4 lines of these. So this is basically a 5mm grid paper, and like basically I have used like 2 centimeter of size of the for the stroke. And for downstroke you have to press your pen and go downwards, so you get a very thick line. So you have to press your pen, go downwards. Don't worry, your brush pen won't break because it has a very flexible tip and it is supposed to do that. So just beat the guideline and make sure that you do not drag your strokes or move fast. Make sure you go slow and very nice. So practice this multiple times and then we can move on to the next stroke, is that an upstroke. So downstroke goes up to down, that means your line is thick when you go downwards, and upstroke is the thin line. So here again I'm marking like my 4 lines and you go upwards and it's a thin line. Go very slow and gently without a lot of pressure on your pen, very gentle pressure. Do not drag your pen like this or move fast. That would not let you get the good strokes. If your lines are shaky at the start, it's totally fine, because it happens because you're not used to holding a brush pen that way, and it's very flexible to keep a control on it. So it's okay to you have shaky lines at the start, but keep practicing, it will get better with the practice. So go nice and slow and do not drag, as I said. And yeah, so that is a thin line, that is, it goes upwards. So that's an upstroke and it is a thin line. Now the third that we have is the overturn curve. And overturn curve is like where we'll apply these thin and thick line. basically the main part of calligraphy is understanding thin and thick lines, and here again I'm measuring 4 lines, and I'm gonna start with a thin line, take a turn, slowly start putting pressure and go downwards. So here you can see it's a thin line because the stroke was going upwards, and here it is going downwards. So you get a nice thin and thick line and a good transition from thin to thick. So practice this multiple times too, and make sure that your angle is parallel. Even if you go straight or slant, doesn't matter. Make sure that your angles are parallel to each other, to each of the stroke. And make sure you do not go different angle or something very wide like this. This is totally wrong. Make sure to go in one direction. So next up is the undertone curve. It's like totally opposite of the overtone. If you want this grid line paper, I'll mention the link of this grid paper that I've downloaded online from a website. You can download it too, whatever size you want. And I've printed this on a very smooth 100 GSM paper so that our brush pens don't fray. So now the undertone curve is the opposite of overtone, and it starts like this. So it is a thick line and transition and a thin line. So here if you can see, it started from here, that means it went downwards and then upwards. So this is going to be thin and this went downward, and the pressure is going to be thick over here. I mean the stroke is going to be thick over here. So again it has to be parallel to each other. So if you can see, both the stroke are parallel. They are going in one direction and not something like this, which is going into different direction. That's wrong. And similar to this, not something very wide and very fast. Even if you go fast, you might not get that transition that you want over here at this part and here at this part. So you have to go very slow when you do calligraphy or any strokes while practicing. And then we have compound curve. So now the compound curve is like the combination of these two strokes. Let's see. Again, mark the lines. Make sure always practice with the guidelines. If not something like this, a grid line, you can always use a line notebook, ruled notebook. So now the compound curve is something like this. So now as you can see, this went from here thin, and then the transition thick, and then again the transition, and then thin again. So here the pen moved upwards. So since it's thin, it's thick, and again this is thin. So, and again you can see they are parallel to the angle, to the stroke. Go very slow. Do not rush while doing it, and do not try to get a hairline thin. It's totally fine. We just have to find a variation between the thick and thin line. And practice multiple times. That will help you to get better with these strokes. As you can see, they are parallel to each other, and make sure you're not doing something like this or something like this, which are going in very pointed corner over here, and this is going like 3 different angles, and that we don't want that. So make sure to go parallel with the strokes. Try to go slowly, and you'll achieve that kind of a transition with a lot of practice. Now we move on to the fifth basic stroke, that is the oval. Sixth, that is the oval. And oval is really important because a lot of letters are based on the formation of oval. So here the oval, first I will make it and then I'll be able to show you. So here this is the oval, and for the oval I always start here at 2 o'clock. So make sure you start always at 2 o'clock. Take a transition, turn back and come again up and join it. So here you get this nice transition because thin line, thick line, again coming to thin and then joining back. So that's how you form oval. Make sure it is oval and not circle. Something, this is also more like an oval, but maybe something like this or something. That's totally wrong. And try to be into the guidelines. Like these are 4 lines, make sure these are also 4 lines when you practice. And this needs a lot of practice, but once you get better at it, you will be able to form the letters. So yeah, this was the oval stroke, and now we have the last 2 strokes. Those are the ascender and the descender. So we have ascender, and then we have a descender. It can be also called as ascending loop or descending loop. So these are the loops which we have for the letters, with loops such as the B, K, L and other letters. So now we'll mark over here 8 lines. So the ascender will be the double of the oval and the compound curve, overturn, undertone curves. So it is gonna be something like this. So it starts with a thin line, go upwards, take a turn and come back down. Go slowly, very slow. Take a turn, give a pressure, get this nice transition from thin to thick and downwards. So always remember 2 points: up you go is thin, down you go is thick. Never forget that. So this went up and then this went down. So this is gonna be thick and this is gonna be thin. So that was ascender or ascending loop. And then we have descender. So descender is like opposite of this, and again it is same height. So it goes like this. One, and it starts with a thick line. Start releasing pressure from the pen, go upwards and join. You can also take this ahead if you want. You can keep it till here. So these were the basic strokes that we should understand before we start doing the letters. So this started from here, this went downwards, and then this went upwards. So it's thin and this is thick. So this is the starting point. This is the starting point over here, from here, and yeah. If you are struggling with how to hold a brush pen, or your brush pen angle, or your paper angle, what kind of paper to use, you can go back and check my video on tips to get started with brush calligraphy. I have linked it on the top right corner of this video. You can go check that out first and you can try these later, so that will help you to get better at these strokes. And you can also want to go ahead with learning brush calligraphy, you can purchase my guidebook, that is Beginner's Guide to Brush Calligraphy. I am mentioning the link in the caption to purchase a copy, and that will help you to form words and connections and how to write beautiful in calligraphy with brush pen. I hope you enjoyed this video and it helped you to get your calligraphy strokes better. If you try this, do share your progress or practice with me on Instagram or Facebook. I would love to see your work. And yes, thank you so much for watching. See you next week.